Oh, is everyone here? Hello. Hi, I'm Leonella Cook, and my business is Sandpaper and Wax Design. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm excited to do a fun finish with you guys today. And everyone's probably getting ready to go out of town or for the Memorial Day weekend. So we'll go ahead and get started. Before we do, I'd like to thank all the service members, their families, and loved ones who have given their life the ultimate sacrifice in whatever capacity while serving in the U.S. military. My deepest gratitudes. So thank you. But so before we get started, to get some business out of the way, 25% site wide on Amy Howard at Home. Everything is 25% off. So all the products that you will use for this particular finish, you guys will get 25% off. That's a pretty good deal. So again, I'm Leonella Cook with Sandpaper and Wax Design, just teaching live for Amy. And ta-da, this is the finish that I'm going to teach you guys today. It was a pre-finished, and you can see it on the website, but very similar to something like this. And it was a reproduction and made in Egypt. So it had a lot of armalou, which I like, but it had a little bit too much that it almost made it a little tacky. And then the marble top on it was cracked. So I have cut a new top out of solid pine, and I will do a Gustavian marble to match this. So that's what's happening. This piece needed love, and I loved it. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to talk about what we need to finish this project today. So we're going to need Southern Gentleman, Amalfi Coast, Strasbourg White, Sunday Suppers. You're going to need a milk paint binder, antique glaze. The pigments you'll need is Nor, Venetian Brown, Amalfi Coast. We're about to get a huge storm, so hopefully the power doesn't go out. Dark wax, light wax, and as always, dust, clean slate. Always, always, always. This is really important for this particular one because we are not going to strip it. We're going to just go over what it is. So let's get started. A lot to get through. If you have questions, post them, and the team will try to get to them when they can. And I'm so glad you could be here today. And I hope you're having a safe and wonderful Memorial Day weekend. So here we go. We're almost done with Maycember. Okay. So to begin, as you see here, I've already kind of pre-started, so we're not blow drying the whole time. Ooh, and I'm stuck to my paper. So really what we're starting with is this just finished piece. It's already got, and on the finish side, it already has an ample amount of lacquer or whatever the finish was prior. So what I want you guys to do, you're going to take a piece of 220 grit sandpaper. Make sure you're wearing a dust mask. You don't want to breathe any of this stuff in, especially on older pieces. You don't know if there was arsenic or lead in the stain nor the sealer. So go ahead. You're going to gently just sand the surface. That way the paint has a little more tooth to it. But since it's milk paint, we do want it to chip a little bit. And now I'll tell you why we're going to use the binder. So once you do that, take our rag, always, 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 forever, clean slate. And especially with milk paint, because it will show you if there were surfactants underneath, the paint will crackle and pop off, not where you want it. So make sure you really get that nice and clean and to the point where you get a completely clean cloth. So when you're done wiping, it's completely clean. So that's it. That's the basics for getting it ready. Not a really hard thing to do. I do recommend you take all the armalou off if you can, and save it, put it aside so you can polish it if need be. And so we're going to start with the base, which is Strasbourg White and milk paint binder. And now you're probably like, well, why do we need to use milk paint binder? And why don't we just use one step? Well, we want a true milk paint finish. In order to do that, we need to start it. And as you can see, it's such a different feel. And when you touch it, it's a different feel than a one-step finish. And so the way that that base will absorb the next layer of paint is really important too, as you want to achieve the correct color. So really sticking with milk paint here, you're going to mix your milk paint first, that 1-to-1 ratio. And then when you get there, after it's completely mixed, because if you mix the milk paint binder before that paint is mixed, you end up with clumps, and now it's just clumpy mess. So don't do that. So mix your milk paint first. When it's done, add in your binder, and you want to add about it's a so I for if I do a cup of milk paint, I do a cup of binder. That's how much I really want it to stay. Also, another thing I want to point out to you is when you distress something with binder, here, we'll just show you right here. It's not like one step where it just ends up all jagged completely. So it's going to distress really nice, but still stay on your surface. So that's why we're doing milk paint and milk paint binder. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so here I want you to do 2 coats, and I want you to see the difference. This is 1 done, this is 2, and I really like that it's more opaque, and this one it's just still too translucent. So I really would love for you to do, and make sure when you go to paint, if you let that sit for a minute, agitate your paint up, and then tap off, and then go ahead and do your milk paint Strasbourg white and your binder, just like that. Okay. And now you're probably thinking, well, why don't we do cracked gesso? Because what we're going to do today is more of a faux distress. I know a lot of people don't want to bang their furniture up, and they don't. So we're going to faux distress it. We're going to shadow it. We're going to use our arsenal of techniques to achieve that chippy, even distressed look without doing harm to our furniture. So that's your second coat. Let that dry. Here we are. Now we're going to go ahead. You want to let this dry. You want to at least let it dry for 2 hours. I typically like every layer to sit for 6 to 8 hours, maybe overnight, especially as we get thicker and thicker. So the next color that we're going to do, and it's really pretty, it's that turquoise blue kind of color. You see how pretty that is? Okay, so now we're going to talk about how we get that. We are going to mix Southern Gentleman and Amalfi Coast. All right, yeah, there we go, I had them backwards. Just like that. And then you're going to adjust the color using, so if you want it to get darker, we're going to use the Noir. If you want it to be more green, what color do we use? Any guys? Can someone tell me? So if we want it to make a more green blue, we are going to add Tuscany in the Summer, and just a skosh of it, not a ton, just a little bit, because when you mix that blue and yellow, we get green. Color wheel, so important. And if you don't have a color wheel, ask Siri. Those are like, ask her, well, how do I get this color? I talk to her all the time, Siri and God. And they have all the answers. So here, we're going to mix that blue, and then we're going to mix Southern Gentleman. And you want to start with the light color first, because once you go too dark, it's hard to pull it back. So let's do 2 teaspoons to a 1 here. And we're just going to, so we start to see, it starts getting a little bit dark. Let's go ahead and add a tiny bit more Southern. So now we're at a 1-to-1 ratio here. And what I'd really like to do is I'd like to see a little bit of green and maybe a little bit darker. So you want to go ahead and add, I would add about, for this little bit, typically for a bigger mix, I'd add about a teaspoon, but something just small would be like a quarter. And then now we're starting to get that really pretty, look how pretty that is. Now I want to go a little green. So I'm going to add just a little bit. And so when you make this, when you make your batch, write down what your formula, make enough for your entire piece, because the last thing you want to do is run out of your color. All right. And so just like that, remember, we're not making really thick paint, because the thicker the paint, the more you're going to have to pull with that antique glaze. And that's expensive too. So just like that. And now, if you can see really close, there is a little tiny bit. If you want a little more blue, you can make it a little bit bluer, a little more brighter blue. You can add just a little bit of that Amalfi Coast. And if you want to make it look dingy, a little bit brown, you add some Venetian brown to that. And then just really playing with these colors. Again, if you want to just stick with the basic, that would be Southern Gentleman, and Amalfi Coast. To darken that up would be a teaspoon of Nor. All right, so we already have that pre-made. I even went ahead and made a whole batch of it, so for later on, and if I ever need to do touch-ups, I always try to, and then I'll label this paint for whatever project, just for future reference. So now we're gonna do our first layer of color, real color, instead of like the Strasbourg. And as you notice, when you really mix pigment powder and other pigments together, it wants to settle at the bottom. So make sure you're really agitating that paint, really breaking it up. Give it a good stir. Also, to get the truest color, you want to mix these paints ahead of time before you start. You want all the molecules to be fully saturated. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to add that really pretty turquoise blue green to it. Oop, here's the storm. Ah, and you're like, oh, I don't like these paint lines. I'm seeing paint lines. I promise you they will dry up. And I'm going to show you on the next board what we're going to do. Here is the next board. So here is one coat and it's brushed. Here is two coats. And what I did a little bit different, because now we're really starting to think about how we want this piece to look. So if this was a door on your buffet like it is, that center really wouldn't have too much distressing. It wouldn't be, hit up but do you see how I've haloed it? And this is only done with paint, with the same color. So I'm going to show you how to do that on this side. This is one coat, dried. And so what I want you to do, agitate your paint again. We're going to do one pass. Okay. And so as that begins to dry, I want you to take your Siebel sponge. You're going to dip it into your paint. Take it off a little bit. And now I want you're going to halo kind of all the way around. And then what I want you to do, and leaving that open space, as it begins to dry, you can come through with the sponge. And then we don't want it completely like all the way like this. So kind of go over it again, just a little bit. And now I'm going to use the hairdryer. I'm sorry, guys. Really quick. I'll show you. Okay, so do you see how it's starting to dry? And now I want you to do this again. You're going to go back over it before it's kind of completely dry. And now we're just adding a little bit of texture to that paint. And say this area is the edge. Okay, we'll claim that to the edge. So that's going to dry like that. And this is what you're going to end up with is here. So now we're here. Once you get to this point, I want you to let that paint dry overnight. Let it completely dry overnight. Let it do it. Let it do its thing. The best milk paint is always allowing enough dry time. I really believe that. So now this is where we start getting into our antique glaze. I'm going to pull this over here. And so antiquing glaze is what we're going to use to pull off. All right. And then get another, see, I always have a bunch of them going at the same time. So we're here, make sure your sponge is always wet before you begin. And we're just gonna, and it can be messy. You can get wherever, but just try not to go in a line. Try to be a little random. And as it starts to dry, you're gonna start seeing that white underneath, and you might get frightened because it looks so stark, but don't worry, it's not. Have no fear. And if it is, it's okay. You can do it again. That's what I love about milk paint is there's just so many different possibilities. So we're going to let this dry. Let's see what you have, you know. Let's do this one spot right here. And I'm just going to work with this little area right here so you guys can see. I'm going to bring it in a little bit closer. And I know some of you are like, oh, that's so white. I'm too nervous. That I'm telling you, that actually is really cool. And I'm going to show you real quick why I'm saying that. So don't stress out if you have a little bit of white like this, because look at this right here. Do you see this? You see how the white is already coming through? I let it be because that way now I don't have to, and then you can start to age this little spot with different with your waxes, with furniture tonic, with pigments. And now this will start to look old and you don't even have to, there's no scraping and pulling. And so don't stress that, oh my goodness, there's so much white. It's so forgiving. So really, in worst case, put some on your finger. We could just do like that, fix it. Okay. So once you got your board to dry, you want to decide if you want to pull more off. And sometimes it's you can pull while it's still a little damp, which actually I do sometimes desire. But you want to be really gentle. We don't want to. So if I want this to be the edge, maybe I want this to have been scraped a couple of times. So here we are, just pulling. You can come through and just maybe make a couple of scrap marks. Remember, try not to be all in the same, come through the center. And then as we continue, you could use steel wool too. If you want to, and this steel wool is going to be really imperative as we get to that next level. So I'm going to let this dry really quick. I'm going to turn this on. It should be super fast. And we're going to keep moving on, guys. All right, I'm going to work in this specific area. So next, because now we're going to move into our shadowing colors, and I think this is really fun to play with. I saw a piece in Round Top that was done like this. Where is it? So what I mixed was for our shadowing colors, it's milk paint. This is, and you can see the little bit of variance right here in the bottom. This is Strasbourg white with Venetian brown, just 1 tablespoon mixed in. Then I did a contrasting color a little bit darker, and you can see how it separates. This is Strasbourg white, or this is Sunday Suppers, which is at the bottom, and that's Strasbourg white. Do you see that difference there? But look how pretty it is when you put these two together, okay? So when you begin to shadow, I want you to go from light to dark. Does that make sense? Everyone following me? So because these cups are too tiny and my hands are ginormous, we're gonna put it in this because this was not realistic. Sorry about that, guys. My hands are too big for these tiny cups. So anyway, we are going to mix this up. I'm gonna use a brush. So that's our first color. We're gonna take a sponge, seawell sponge, and you're just gonna, and don't freak out. Please don't freak out at me. I promise it will look really good. I promise. So we're just going to go and we're just going to kind of add a little bit. We're haloing it around. And you're like, wow, this is so stark. It looks garish, blah, blah, blah. Trust me. Okay. Trust me. Trust me. That's it. Super simple, right? Like that. Let this dry for a second. We're going to come back through now with that darker color because we're going from light to dark with our shadowing. I'll try to stick my hand in here. Let's see what happens. My hands are huge. Oh, okay. All right. And we're mixed. And so we're just going to take that darker color, and we're just going to go over it just a little. You can see that's not really mixed well because all I'm getting is that. Yeah, you guys really want to mix these because look at what happens. All at the bottom, all that dark, beautiful color that we really want to pull through. And that's okay. Just make sure you mix, agitate really well. Use bigger bowls for sure. Otherwise, you can't get to the bottom where the good stuff is. Okay, here we are. And we're just, look how much darker that is. It'll dry it just a tad darker. Okay, so a little, and then maybe go up through the middle just a tiny bit. So I'm going to bring you up so you can see a little bit overall more of what's happening. Do you see what's happening? So this is our door. We know the edges are really going to get touched the most. The center, usually, if anything, is somebody kind of knees it in. The edges, sides. That's really our focus. We want that oval eye track following. Once this begins to dry, we're going to take again our anti-glaze with our Seawool sponge. And I'm going to hit it with the hairdryer real quick before we move to that next step. And we're going to soften all of this, really blending it together. All right, that spot, we'll just kind of tap it right now. There we go. So we can move on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to start blending it. We're just going to, and you're going to activate that paint below, which is fine because now we're blending it in. Blending shadowing. We're blending all that shadowing. And we're just layering some interest without having to do heavy distressing. Because sometimes it just doesn't look great when we attack it with a sander or steel wool or just sandpaper. So really just kind of blending it in. Maybe move your sponge around a little bit. Just like that, up the center, just a little bit because it still needs to get attention. All right, and so we're really just softening these colors, muting them, and now we'll start to see a really pretty picture at the end. All right, look how I'm going to bring you in close. Ready? I want you to really see that. Look how pretty that is. I mean, that would even just be pretty as a background for artwork. Hint, hint. So if you're not happy and you want it to be a little bit of a softer look, you're going to take your steel wool and I want you to just we're gently going to take down because it does have a little bit of ridge to it because it's from the sponge. And then we're just blending it in a little bit more. Maybe you realize you want some more off that corner. You want to see more white. So using that steel wool, and we're being so gentle with our furniture. There is no harm done here. So just really maybe along the edge, let's run that steel wool because that's where it's going to get touched the most as it begins to get open and closed. You know, maybe there's a little bit through the center, just a tiny bit. And so now we've started to really, so you can see before the softening and after. Big difference here. So we're really going to stick with this corner. because I don't want to run out of time with you guys. Our next step is going to be light wax. So everything from here on out is waxes and oils. And the reason we do wax is we prevent it from reaching to completely down and into the base. So it's superficial. If we needed to change it, it's not going to completely color the paint completely different. So we're going to wax this with our light wax. It's creating a barrier. That's what I'm trying to say. So here's our light wax. If I can open it. And always, always, always offload, because you will end up with a big waxy mess, especially for this one. So here, we're just going to offload a little bit, and we're just going to feather on some light wax. Typically, I would let this dry. I would let this, come to tack, feel like it's not moving around, but we are on a short time frame, so I'm going to keep going. So once you do your light wax, we're going to start having some fun here. This is where the magic happens. And we are going to I'm going to show you guys some fly specking done with, this is done with alcohol and Nord pigment. And so what you're going to do is take, where's one of my cups? Cup. I don't see an extra cup here. That's all right. We'll do a paper plate. One sec. So what you're going to do is you're going to add some alcohol to preferably a cup, so it's not all over the place. And then we're just going to add in a tiny bit of this black pigment. Tiny, tiny bit. And so why we add alcohol to black pigment, because the alcohol will dry, obviously, incredibly quick. And what you're left with is the residue of the pigment. Okay, so we'll fly speck. We'll do that towards the end. I'm going to leave that to the side. Remember, alcohol does dissipate in the exposed to air, so you might have to add some more alcohol as you get to that point. So once we're doing this, we're going to also mix our oil, our furniture tonic. Where are you, furniture tonic? So many materials today. I already pre-poured it. So here is my furniture tonic. I used it from the other day. I don't want to waste it. We're going to take a little bit of this Nor. I'm going to stick it right here. We're going to use a little bit of Venetian brown. And so what I like about the furniture tonic and then using these two colors, you start to create almost a green color because that furniture tonic. There. But you'll see, here we go. So we're gonna, where it would be the most, offload this a little bit because otherwise it'll come on really dark. So here, just going around the edges. And this is going to add just a little bit. You can also just take some furniture tonic, offload a little bit, and maybe high touch all in that corner. So just going through high touch along the edge. Yep, along the edge. I'm going to bring you up again so you can see the overall shot. Guys, this is really where the fun happens with this piece, is really just starting to shadow and halo all the way around. Okay. And then with those white spots where we wanted it to be a little darker, we'll go over it, go over those little white areas, and then come back through, and we're just going to gently dab. And it might seem very, very loud right now, but this furniture tonic, as it begins to dry, it will start to dissipate a bit. Okay. And if need be, you can go back through and just dab. And you can keep kind of just going over to soften that just a tiny bit. It was a little too much. Okay. So just like that. So that is one way to do it with the oils. Now you can do this with wax. And I actually combined both techniques on that piece. You are going to take your wax. Oops. and you're going to make a paste. This is if you wanted to do a black wax or a black brown wax. You could do white with it. I mean, the sky is the limit. So here I'm going to take a little bit of, and also what is fun too, is taking that original mix that you made and making it a wax as well. So we're going to make a couple of different waxes to play with. And you can begin to shadow with these. So taking that wax here, we're going to mix it with our palette knife. Getting it nice and incorporated. All right, make sure you wipe your blade. Here we go. Now we're going to mix our black. Now we have all different color waxes. How pretty. And now we're going to make our original paint. And this is good too. If there's mistakes that you want to fix, then you don't like that the color is either it's too white for you and you want to add back, this is a great way to do it too. Okay. This is what's so amazing about milk paint. It is super forgiving. So we're going to take our brush. I'm going to do some brown wax since we have a lot of black going on here. Change it up. So loading onto your brush. Now you're going to offload. I have another offload paper. Where'd you go? There we go. Offload that brown wax. And now we're going to shadow again. Just going through. Now this is where you want to be careful because you don't want it to look like somebody wiped poo-poo hands on it. But like my kids were at your house. No, I'm joking. Okay, so we're just adding a little bit. I'm going to bring you over here so you can see. I don't know why my stand is dropping. There we go. And then we're just going to add a little bit more here around the edges. And now what I recommend is after you've done this, walk away from it. Walk away from it, come back to the room. You'll see it in a different way. In fact, take a picture of it and then walk out the room and then go look at it, then come back in. And then this will help you decide, well, okay, am I missing something here? Is it too much in one corner? And if it is, watch, we can just easily begin to lift if it was too much. That spot's really just driving you bananas. This is the beauty of milk paint. And then taking that steel wool and bringing down the edges to soften it. And now your mistake is gone. Voila. And now it just looks like shadowing. Now this is where you can fly speck. You can fly speck in white or in black. You can even do gray and brown. So those would be traditional fly specking colors. Again, we're mixing 2 to 1. I even don't even want to say 2 to 1. It's like two to a quarter of a amount of pigment. It's very, very little. And so what you're going to do is this brush, do you see how it has a flexible tip toward the end? It's an artist brush. It's a fine, I forget what they call them. What is this? Script liner. And you're going to take another brush. You're going to pull back from it and you're just going to gently tap. Now don't freak out. It's going to look crazy initially, that first pass. Do you see it's so bold? But watch as that alcohol begins to quickly dissipate. Now you're just left with traces, very, very minimal traces of that fly speck. And then the last but least, I want you to take your fingers on this oil and I want you to rub. Okay, if there was a handle here, guess what? All that hand grease is going to be right here. This is going to be so gross from people touching it. So, and then I'm just going to gently shadow it. I'm going to use my hand and I'm going to just pull off. There was a knob right there. Okay. Let this all completely dry. Let it all just do its thing for a little bit. I would say at least 4 hours. Come back with that dark wax. And this dark wax is not the same as that pigment wax. It is much different. It's much richer. It's fuller. And so you're going to offload and then offload that brush again. Always offloading, especially with these dark waxes. And we're just going to gently go over, like maybe just the edge, maybe in little areas. And then maybe a line through the center if it was something dripped down it or if there's something splashed. And that's it, guys. This is a fantastic finish. It's sealed with your waxes. It's beautiful. And I'm going to take you now to my piece so you can see. So as you can see, look at the corners, really paying attention to high contact surface areas where I really rubbed that in. Here we are coming along the edges. And if you can see here through the center, no distressing is really happening. But as we get down to the edge or to the very bottom, this is where you start to see all of this happening, okay? So it looks very natural. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm so glad that you were able to join me today. I hope you all have a safe Memorial Day weekend. And thank you to all the families who have lost loved ones. We are so grateful to be in this country. So happy Memorial Day weekend and be safe, guys. Take care. You can't get out.